When someone repeatedly asks you to carry the weight of their emotions, to solve their problems, to listen endlessly without reciprocation, you are witnessing more than a simple request. You are witnessing the unveiling of their character. Emotional draining requests are like a mirror held up to the soul of the person who makes them. They show us with clarity that cannot be ignored how much respect, empathy, and awareness they truly have for the people around them. Consider this carefully. Life gives each of us limited energy. Our attention, our care, our time, and our emotional bandwidth are finite. Every moment spent absorbing the problems, anxieties, and burdens of someone else is a moment taken from our own growth, our own peace, and our own fulfillment. And yet some people ask and ask and ask again, expecting you to empty yourself for them, never noticing, never caring about what it costs you to give. This pattern is not random, it is a signal. It is a message whispered quietly but persistently into your life. This person sees you as a resource, not as a human being with your own needs and limits. Emotional draining requests often begin subtly. A casual venting, a small favor, a minor plea for attention. But over time, they escalate. What starts as, "I need to talk to you for a few minutes," can become, "I need you all the time." What begins as a moment of seeking comfort transforms into a habit of siphoning your energy. And the truth is, when someone consistently makes these demands, it is rarely about their immediate need. It is about control, about dependency, about the reassurance that they are the center of your focus and care. To understand the nature of these requests, observe their impact on you. Notice the exhaustion that follows, the subtle erosion of your patience, the creeping frustration that feels like guilt. These feelings are not a sign of weakness in you. They are the purest measure of imbalance. A healthy relationship, whether romantic, familial, or platonic, flows both ways. When you feel drained, when you feel your light dimming after interaction, the problem lies not in your generosity, but in the other person's inability to carry their own weight. Character is revealed not in moments of ease, but in moments of strain. People who ask for emotional labor without regard for your well-being are showing you who they are when they are unguarded, when they are most honest about what they value. They are revealing the corners of their heart that do not consider the needs of others. This is a powerful gift if you can see it clearly, not as a punishment, not as a personal failing, but as information. Life is always giving us information about who belongs in our lives and who does not, and emotional draining requests are among the clearest signals we can receive. There is also a subtle seduction in this pattern. Often we are conditioned to believe that love, care, or loyalty is measured by how much we give, how much we sacrifice, and how much we endure. The person making endless emotional demands may frame their neediness as love or trust, and our hearts, generous by nature, respond. But giving from a place of obligation, guilt, or depletion is not love, it is extraction. And extraction, no matter how cloaked in affection, will slowly erode your sense of self, your clarity, and your joy. When we pay attention to these draining requests, we see another truth: they expose patterns of entitlement. Some people live in a world where your patience, your kindness, your empathy, and your presence are treated as freely available commodities. They do not see that you are a complete person with your own journey. They only see what you can do for them. And this is the essence of their character. It is not necessarily evil, but it is limited, small, and incapable of the reciprocity that sustains meaningful relationships. Learning to recognize emotional draining requests is not about abandoning compassion. It is about discerning where compassion is genuine and where it is being misused. It is about protecting your own energy so that when you do give, it is given freely, joyfully, and without cost to your inner peace. When someone repeatedly comes to you to unload, without offering support in return, they are revealing that their world is centered on themselves. This is valuable knowledge. It allows you to step back, to assess the boundaries you need, and to make choices that honor your own emotional integrity. Every woman, every person, deserves relationships that nourish rather than deplete. By observing who repeatedly asks for emotional labor, who consistently takes without giving, we gain insight into who is capable of mutual care and who is not. These moments are opportunities to cultivate clarity. They challenge us to become sensitive to imbalance, alert to manipulation, and unwavering in the protection of our emotional space. Ultimately, emotional draining requests are a reflection not of your inadequacy, but of the other person's inability to carry their own inner world responsibly. They are an invitation to see character with unflinching honesty, to measure the quality of connection, not by the words spoken, but by the energy exchanged, the respect shown, and the boundaries honored. They are lessons in discernment, guides that point toward relationships where presence is cherished, where care is mutual, and where love does not feel like a burden. Material demands are rarely about the material itself. They are rarely about the gift, the money, the favor, or the tangible item being requested. Instead, these demands are a subtle, persistent way of testing boundaries, establishing dominance, and measuring compliance. When someone constantly asks for things, there is a silent message embedded within the request: I expect you to bend for me, to prioritize me, to prove your value through your willingness to give. This is not generosity. It is a form of control dressed in the disguise of need, and it is one of the most common ways people, often unconsciously, manipulate those around them. The first time someone asks for a gift, a loan, or a favor, it may feel innocent. Perhaps it is framed as a temporary need, an emergency, or a gesture of trust. And if you respond with kindness, it may feel like a natural exchange. But when these material requests repeat, escalate, or come with implied expectations, they shift from occasional to habitual. The repeated asking is no longer about a simple act of giving. It is about measuring your limits, observing your willingness to serve, and seeing how much of yourself you are willing to surrender to maintain their approval. One of the most dangerous aspects of material demands is that they often cloak themselves in emotional narratives. Why? I really need this because I am struggling. 6. I only ask this because I trust you. These statements feel intimate, persuasive, even caring. They tug at your empathy, appeal to your sense of responsibility, and make you feel like saying no might hurt them or damage the relationship. But beneath the surface, there is a quiet assertion of power. If you comply, you are proving loyalty, obedience, or love. If you hesitate or refuse, you are exposed as someone who will not be entirely available to their desires. Material demands can also subtly erode self-worth. When someone repeatedly asks for your resources, it teaches you, even unconsciously, to measure your value through what you can provide for them. Your generosity becomes the standard by which you are judged. Your money, your possessions, your time, and your energy are treated not as extensions of your life, but as tokens to secure someone else's approval. Over time, this creates a dangerous cycle. The more you give, the more they ask, and the more you feel compelled to give in order to maintain their affection or attention. In observing these patterns, it becomes clear that material demands are a tool of psychological leverage. They are a way of shifting the balance in a relationship, making one person dependent, indebted, or emotionally obligated. True generosity never comes with a hidden agenda. It does not expect repayment, control, or proof of loyalty. Someone who constantly requests material support without reciprocity or consideration is revealing a worldview in which other people exist primarily to serve their needs, rather than as equals with their own boundaries, dignity, and autonomy. This behavior is often masked by charm, charisma, or the illusion of necessity. The person making the requests may be persuasive, emotionally compelling, or appear vulnerable. They may frame themselves as deserving, entitled, or as the victim of circumstances beyond their control. And if you are naturally empathetic, generous, or responsible, this can feel like a moral test. Will you rise to the occasion? Will you prove yourself? Will you do the right thing? But in reality, the test is not of your character, it is of your limits and your willingness to sacrifice your autonomy for someone else's convenience. Recognizing this pattern requires courage. It requires observing not only the requests themselves, but also the intent behind them. Ask yourself, are these demands time needs, or are they recurring, habitual, and escalating? Are they accompanied by respect for your boundaries, gratitude, or reciprocity, or do they leave you feeling drained, anxious, or pressured? The answers reveal the true nature of the relationship and, more importantly, the character of the person making the requests. Material demands can also be a way to redirect attention. When someone asks for a favor or a gift, the conversation often shifts away from their own responsibilities, flaws, or mistakes. By focusing your attention on what you can provide, they deflect accountability and maintain control of the narrative. In this way, repeated material requests are not just about the items themselves. They are a subtle strategy for maintaining dominance, shaping behavior, and ensuring that your priorities revolve around their comfort rather than your own well-being. It is important to remember that recognizing these patterns is not about cynicism or mistrust. It is about awareness. Awareness allows you to distinguish between healthy interdependence and manipulative dependence, between mutual generosity and covert control. Those who rely on material requests to measure your loyalty or affection are revealing the contours of their character. They are showing you, with each ask, whether they are capable of respecting boundaries, valuing you as a person, and cultivating a relationship based on reciprocity rather than extraction. Learning to see these requests clearly is an act of self-respect. It is a declaration that your resources, your time, your energy, your money are sacred, and that generosity cannot be coerced or weaponized. By observing when material demands are used to control rather than connect, you gain the insight to protect your dignity, preserve your autonomy, and surround yourself with people who seek not to drain you, but to grow with you, support you, and honor your wholeness. Time is one of the most precious resources we have, yet it is also one of the easiest to take for granted, both by ourselves and by others. When someone repeatedly demands your time without consideration for your own schedule, your priorities, or your energy, they are doing more than asking. They are revealing a fundamental lack of respect. Time manipulation is subtle, often hidden behind casual requests, urgencies, or emotional appeals. It may begin as a simple favor, a phone call, or a meeting, but over time, it becomes a pattern that consumes your life and your attention. Observing this pattern carefully reveals a profound truth about the character of the person making these demands and the way they perceive relationships. Consider this. Every moment spent fulfilling someone else's requests is a moment taken away from your own growth, your own rest, and your own aspirations. Time is not infinite. It is the one resource that, once spent, cannot be reclaimed. And yet, some people operate under the assumption that your availability is unlimited, that your presence is theirs to command, and that your boundaries are negotiable. They ask for more than you can give, schedule you around their needs, and subtly guilt you when you assert limits. This is not just poor social etiquette, it is a reflection of their inner priorities. Time manipulation often manifests in insidious ways. It might be someone who consistently arrives late, expecting you to wait patiently as though your schedule is secondary. It might be someone who calls repeatedly, interrupts important moments, or pressures you to prioritize them over your own responsibilities. Each of these behaviors signals that they place higher value on their own convenience than on your life, your work, and your peace. This repeated pattern is not accidental. It is an unspoken declaration of entitlement and a silent test of your compliance. Those who manipulate your time often disguise it as urgency, vulnerability, or need. I really need to talk to you now? Oh, it's just a few minutes, it won't take long. These statements appeal to your empathy and willingness to help. And for a generous person, saying no can feel uncomfortable, even selfish. But the reality is that consistent, unchecked demands on your time are never truly about the moment. They are about the larger expectation, that your priorities revolve around them, that your schedule bends to their will, and that your energy is available at their discretion. This is not love or care. It is control masquerading as need. Time manipulation can also subtly erode your sense of self-worth. When you constantly rearrange your life to accommodate someone else, you begin to internalize a dangerous message that your own plans, your own goals, and your own needs are secondary. You may start to question whether your own life is valid, whether your ambitions matter, and whether asserting boundaries is selfish. The person demanding your time rarely reflects on the imbalance they are creating. Instead, they thrive on the rhythm of dependence and the quiet power they gain from your acquiescence. It is important to recognize the difference between true interdependence and time manipulation. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect for each other's schedules and energies. They honor the fact that your time is as valuable as anyone else's, and that asking for help, attention, or presence should never come at the cost of someone else's priorities. By contrast, a pattern of repeated, thoughtless demands on your time is a clear signal that the other person does not see you as an equal, but as a resource to be tapped at will. Time manipulation often appears alongside subtle emotional pressure. Someone may get you for not being available, question your loyalty or care, or make you feel responsible for their discomfort. These tactics are not accidents, they are strategic. When someone controls your schedule, they control a part of your life. They create dependency, shape your routines, and condition you to prioritize them above yourself. This form of subtle coercion is rarely acknowledged by the manipulator, but it leaves deep marks, gradually shaping your energy and your choices in ways that are difficult to notice until you step back and observe the pattern. Recognizing time manipulation is an act of clarity and self-respect. It requires paying attention to how interactions leave you feeling. Do you often feel rushed, stressed, or guilty when responding to someone? Do you notice that your own priorities are consistently postponed for their convenience? These are signals, not coincidences. They reveal the inner workings of a relationship and the values of the person asking for your time. In these moments, awareness is your greatest ally. Awareness allows you to distinguish between those who truly value your presence and those who merely take it for granted. By observing these patterns, you begin to see a deeper lesson about boundaries and respect. Your time is a reflection of your self-worth, your intentions, and your commitments to your own life. When someone repeatedly pressures you, monopolizes your attention, or dismisses your plans, they are revealing not just their lack of respect for you, but their understanding or lack thereof of what it means to honor another human being. Each request, each demand, each subtle push against your schedule is a window into their character and their priorities. Learning to honor your own time is an essential act of self-love. It is a declaration that your life, your goals, and your peace are sacred. By observing and responding wisely to those who attempt to manipulate your time, you cultivate clarity, strength, and resilience. You learn to differentiate between those who contribute to your life in ways that are mutually enriching and those who seek to drain, exhaust, or control you under the guise of need. In this way, every moment you protect your time becomes a practice in discernment, empowerment, and uncompromising self-respect. Secrecy is often presented as intimacy, as trust, or as a delicate layer of privacy. But when secrecy becomes a habit, when someone repeatedly asks you to hide their actions, cover up their mistakes, or keep their secrets at the expense of your own integrity, it is no longer about closeness. It is a signal of manipulation and control. Hidden agendas, too, are rarely obvious at first glance. They appear disguised as favors, requests, or even acts of care. Yet underneath lies a pattern designed to benefit the other person while placing you in a position of compromise. Together, secrecy and hidden agendas are some of the most subtle, yet potent, ways a relationship can become toxic. Consider the energy it takes to uphold another person's secrets, to navigate their hidden motives, and to comply with unspoken rules you were never consulted about. Every time you agree to withhold the truth, to act as a shield for someone else's behavior, or to prioritize their image over your principles, you are engaging in a form of emotional labor that goes far beyond ordinary generosity. This labor is invisible to others, yet it is profoundly exhausting to the person who carries it. And over time, you begin to notice the drain, not just in your time or attention, but in your sense of self, your clarity, and your moral grounding. Secrecy can often be framed as trust theft. I'm only telling you this because I trust you. You can't tell anyone. It's private. These words feel intimate and bonding, yet they carry a hidden weight. Trust should never be weaponized to demand complicity. When secrecy is repeatedly requested in situations where it forces you to compromise your values, protect someone else's misdeeds, or obscure the truth, it is no longer a gift. It is a tool of control. Hidden agendas operate in the same way. They are rarely explicit. They arrive disguised as requests for help, support, or even love. Yet they require you to invest energy, time, or attention in ways that serve someone else's unspoken objectives rather than a mutual goal. In many cases, secrecy and hidden agendas are connected. Someone may ask you to lie for them, hide their failures, or create illusions for their benefit. These behaviors are not just small moral compromises. They are tests of your loyalty, compliance, and willingness to subordinate your values to their convenience. Each act of concealment reinforces a dynamic in which you are positioned as secondary, a caretaker of someone else's image, while your own needs, truths, and boundaries are disregarded. This imbalance is subtle, but it is powerful. Over time, it undermines self-confidence, fosters anxiety, and normalizes compromise in areas that should never be compromised. Secrecy also has a way of isolating. When you are asked to keep hidden truths, You are, in essence, separated from your own community, your friends, or your support network. The person making these requests may frame this isolation as intimacy or loyalty. This is just between us. If anyone knew, they wouldn't understand. But the underlying effect is control. By restricting who can see the situation, by ensuring that only you are privy to their manipulations or indiscretions, they consolidate power over your attention, your judgment, and your sense of reality. This is not a partnership, it is a hierarchy, with them at the top and you positioned as custodian, confidante, and enabler. Hidden agendas can also be more subtle than explicit secrecy. They may manifest as repeated suggestions, manipulative requests, or emotional appeals that obscure the real intention. Perhaps someone asks for your help in a way that seems caring or supportive, but the underlying objective serves only them. Perhaps a favor is framed as a shared opportunity, yet it subtly binds you to their goals, aligning your energy with theirs rather than allowing space for your own ambitions. Recognizing these patterns requires careful observation, reflection, and honesty. It requires asking who benefits from this request. How does it affect me? Am I being asked to compromise my own principles, time, or energy for someone else's gain? The danger of secrecy and hidden agendas is that they normalize compromise. When a person repeatedly asks you to participate in their concealed plans or to carry the weight of their undisclosed motives, you begin to accept situations you would otherwise reject. Boundaries erode, clarity diminishes, and a subtle form of dependency is created. You may start to question your judgment, your instincts, or even your sense of right and wrong. The person asking for secrecy does not need to overtly coerce you. The dynamic itself creates pressure, as your own integrity is constantly being tested. Recognizing these patterns is a form of awakening. It is a moment of clarity when you realize that secrecy and hidden agendas are not signs of closeness, but signs of imbalance. They are indicators that the relationship is asking too much of you in ways that are not transparent, reciprocal, or fair. They reveal a character that prioritizes manipulation over honesty, personal gain over mutual respect, and control over connection. Observing these patterns allows you to discern who belongs in your life and who cannot be trusted to honor your integrity. Secrecy and hidden agendas are ultimately tests of compliance, loyalty, and your willingness to sacrifice yourself for someone else's convenience. When recognized clearly, they offer the chance to step back, reflect, and reclaim your power. They invite you to set boundaries that protect your principles, your energy, and your clarity. Every request to conceal, to deceive, or to prioritize another's hidden motives over your own well-being is a reflection of character, an unfiltered glimpse into values, intentions, and the capacity for respect or manipulation. The moment someone pressures you to change, to compromise your values, or to sacrifice pieces of who you are, it is a clear signal that the relationship is not built on mutual respect or genuine care. True connection does not demand that you erase your essence or bend yourself into a mold that serves another person's comfort. When someone asks you to compromise your beliefs, alter your behavior, or suppress your voice to suit their desires, they are revealing a deep lack of regard for your autonomy and integrity. This pressure is a red flag, one that demands clarity, reflection, and often decisive action. Pressure to change rarely presents itself bluntly. It often arrives in subtle forms, a suggestion masked as advice, a critique framed as concern, or repeated hints that you are not enough as you are. You would be so much better if you did this. So, why can't you be more like this? If you really cared, you would try harder to be what I want. These words may feel innocuous in small doses, but when repeated, they form a pattern that erodes confidence, self-esteem, and the ability to trust your own instincts. They are a test disguised as guidance, a measure of your willingness to sacrifice authenticity for acceptance. This pressure often targets the deepest parts of your identity, the things you hold sacred, the values you uphold, and the boundaries you have established for yourself. Someone who truly values you sees these aspects as strengths. They do not ask you to relinquish them for their comfort or convenience. But when someone pressures you to change, it is not about growth or mutual adaptation. It is about control. They are seeking to mold your behavior, thoughts, or emotions to fit their expectations rather than honoring the person you already are. Sacrifice is another facet of this red flag. Relationships naturally involve compromise, small adjustments, and moments of flexibility. But when the expectation of sacrifice becomes constant, when it demands that you set aside your needs, your desires, or your principles repeatedly and without reciprocity, it is no longer mutual, it is extraction. The person requesting these sacrifices is signaling that their comfort, desires, and goals take precedence over your well-being and individuality. They are showing you, through repeated action and insistence, what they truly value, not your presence as a whole person, but the parts of you that serve their narrative or their comfort. Pressure to change can also erode self-trust. When you are consistently asked to modify your behavior or beliefs to suit someone else, a subtle doubt begins to creep in. Maybe I am wrong. Maybe I am not enough. Maybe I need to be someone else to be worthy of love or acceptance. This doubt is precisely what the person seeking change hopes to create. By undermining your confidence in your own identity, they gain influence over your choices, your thoughts, and your emotional state. Over time, this influence becomes a form of silent control, shaping your life in ways that may feel invisible but are deeply pervasive. It is important to recognize that genuine growth and change are different from this kind of pressure. True growth emerges from within, inspired by reflection, awareness, and a desire to evolve, not as a condition imposed by someone else to satisfy their preferences. When change is externally imposed, when it comes with pressure, judgment, or conditional approval, it is no longer growth, it is submission. And submission, when it is caused in the name of love, friendship, or obligation, slowly chips away at your sense of self, your integrity, and your ability to act in alignment with your own truth. Repeated pressure to change also reveals priorities and character. It tells you that the other person's satisfaction, comfort, and expectations are more important than your authenticity, values, and well-being. It is a mirror held up to their own limitations, their inability to accept difference, their desire for control, and their focus on convenience rather than mutual respect. By observing this pattern, you are given an opportunity to understand not just their character, but the health of the dynamic you are in and whether it aligns with your worth, dignity, and long-term happiness. The pressure to sacrifice yourself often overlaps with other manipulative patterns. It can be paired with guilt, subtle threats, or emotional appeals designed to make you feel responsible for their happiness, comfort, or stability. I can't be happy unless you do this. If you really love me, you would. These statements are carefully constructed to shift responsibility from the person making the request to you, to make you question your own priorities, and to bind your sense of value to compliance rather than authenticity. Recognizing this tactic is essential. It is not love, it is leverage. Boundaries are the antidote to this kind of pressure. Protecting your values, refusing to compromise your essence, and honoring your principles is not rigidity, it is self-respect. It is an acknowledgement that your presence, your choices, and your identity are sacred and non-negotiable. Every time someone asks you to change or sacrifice yourself, it is a test of your discernment, a chance to see clearly whether the relationship fosters growth and mutual respect, or whether it demands submission and diminishment. Ultimately, pressure to change or sacrifice yourself is a reflection of imbalance. It is a signal that the relationship is not aligned with mutual care, but with control, extraction, or conditional acceptance. It reveals the character of the person making the request and the health, or lack thereof, of the connection itself. Observing this pattern clearly allows you to reclaim your agency, honor your integrity, and cultivate relationships where authenticity, freedom, and respect are the foundation, rather than compliance, compromise, or the erosion of your true self. Boundaries are one of the clearest expressions of self-love. They are the declaration that your energy, your time, your emotions, and your values are sacred, and that they are not up for negotiation, compromise, or manipulation. Setting boundaries is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of respect toward yourself and toward others. When you define your limits, you are saying to the world that I am whole. I am responsible for my well-being. I will not allow anyone to diminish my light for their convenience. Yet, so often, boundaries are misunderstood. They are seen as walls, as resistance, or as a rejection of love, when in truth, they are the only path to authentic connection and meaningful relationships. Every boundary you set reflects your understanding of what is acceptable and what is not in your life. It is a guidepost that protects your emotional and mental space. When someone asks for more than you are willing to give, whether it is your time, your energy, your money, or your principles, A boundary is the line drawn between generosity and depletion, between kindness and sacrifice at the cost of your self-respect. Boundaries are not just about what you refuse, they are about what you honor: your values, your health, your clarity, and your dignity. Boundaries also serve as mirrors. They show people how you expect to be treated and what you will no longer tolerate. Someone who respects your boundaries demonstrates that they value you as a whole person, not as a resource or a tool to fulfill their desires. Someone who consistently tests, ignores, or dismisses your boundaries reveals, without needing to speak, that they are unwilling or unable to honor your autonomy. In this way, boundaries are both shields and guides. They protect you while illuminating the true character of those around you. Setting boundaries requires courage because it challenges patterns of codependency and expectation. Many people are conditioned to believe that love, care, and loyalty are measured by how much they give, how much they endure, and how much they bend to meet the needs of others. Saying no, asserting limits, or refusing to comply with unreasonable demands can feel uncomfortable, even guilt-inducing. But discomfort is not a sign that you are doing wrong. It is a signal that you are stepping into integrity, reclaiming your energy, and practicing self-respect. Every boundary you uphold is a reaffirmation that your life, your choices, and your well-being are non-negotiable. Boundaries also prevent the slow erosion of self-worth. When you fail to assert limits, others begin to define what is acceptable for you, often in ways that serve them rather than you. This leads to a subtle but powerful shift. You start prioritizing the comfort, convenience, and desires of others over your own. Your life begins to orbit around external expectations rather than internal clarity. By contrast, when boundaries are clear, you maintain control of your energy, your focus, and your peace. You choose how to engage, who to engage with, and how deeply to invest, ensuring that your generosity is given freely, not coerced or extracted. It is also important to understand that boundaries are dynamic, not rigid. They grow with self-awareness, experience, and understanding. Early in life, a boundary may be simple: saying no to someone's unreasonable request, refusing to tolerate disrespect, or stepping away from negativity. Later, boundaries can expand to include emotional space, energy management, and the selective investment of attention in relationships that are reciprocal, nourishing, and aligned with your values. Each boundary reinforces your identity, your autonomy, and your capacity for authentic connection. Boundaries are a form of self-education as well. They teach you what is acceptable in your life and what is not. They help you recognize patterns of manipulation, control, and extraction in relationships, whether romantic, familial, or professional. When you notice that someone consistently disregards your limits, you gain insight into their character and the health of the connection. Boundaries are not about punishing others. They are about understanding the flow of energy in your life and ensuring that it remains balanced, sustainable, and aligned with your well-being. Practicing boundaries also cultivates inner strength. Every time you enforce a limit, you exercise your capacity for self-respect, discernment, and courage. You learn to trust your instincts, honor your values, and resist external pressures that threaten your peace. Over time, this creates a magnetic energy. People who respect boundaries are drawn to clarity, integrity, and self-possession, while those who seek to manipulate, extract, or control are naturally repelled. Boundaries are not just protection, they are empowerment, teaching you to live with agency, intention, and freedom. Boundaries are also acts of love for others, paradoxically. By communicating your limits clearly, you show others what is possible in a healthy relationship. You model respect, integrity, and self-awareness. You invite people to meet you on equal terms rather than in a dynamic of extraction or manipulation. In this way, boundaries create a space for genuine connection, trust, and mutual respect. They are the framework in which relationships can thrive, free from coercion, guilt, or depletion. Ultimately, boundaries are non-negotiable because they are the foundation of self-love. They are the measure by which you protect your energy, honor your values, and cultivate authentic connections. Every request you accept, every limit you uphold, every space you protect is an affirmation you are worthy of respect. Your life is precious, and your well-being is your responsibility. When you recognize that boundaries are not optional, but essential, you reclaim your power, define your life on your own terms, and create the conditions for relationships that are nourishing, balanced, and aligned with your truth